And welcome to MMOFTW Live on Saturday morning, November 24th of 2012, post-turkey hangover with Bill Murphy and Rob Graculin Lashley. Wave hi, Rob.
Hello.
And as you can see, I'm wearing my Christmas sweater because people are asking for it every day. Not really, it's just freaking cold here and snowing now because Thanksgiving's over and that means in Ohio it snows. How you doing, Rob?
It's like 20 here if I take the dog outside, so it's
20?
a little cold.
Aren't you
Hence
like in the South? I thought the South never gets cold.
No, St. Louis isn't really the South.
It's the South. I'm Ohio. There's nothing but South below me.
If you look at a map, you're like that much further north
That's
than
fine.
I am.
Shh. I don't know geography.
Apparently not.
Anyway,
So if you're close to the lakes, you're quite a bit further north.
I am
actually.
very close to the lakes. Yeah, that's true.
Well, there you go.
I'm
Everybody
closer to
is
Canada
south
than
to
I
you.
am to you. Let's put it that way. Anyway, welcome, folks, to the second episode. I am praying and knocking on wood because my desk is made of wood that we won't have computer crashes or internet outages. But if we do, please bear with us. Rob will entertain you as much as he can in chat while my computer is coming back alive. Oh, look, it's NYC or NC Playboy's here with us too. He's always with us, in spirit and reality. Anyway, let's get to it. We've got a few topics to cover today. We've got the PlanetSide 2 launch, which happened back on November 20th. Is that about right? Yeah, November 20th, Tuesday. Guild Wars 2. We're going to talk a little bit about the Lost Shores event, but more importantly, we're going to talk about the blog post update that Chris Whiteside posted about what they're working on for the near future. We're going to talk about Age of Wushu's closed beta, which Rob's actually in. I don't know if we can say that, if there's too much he can talk about it, but
Yeah,
it began. Is there
I
an
didn't
NDA?
have to sign an NDA or anything, so we should be good.
Cool, good, because I'm not in it, so it's all you. And then we're going to talk about Wildstar's Orin, is that how you pronounce it? The Orin lore update that they posted on Wednesday with MMORPG.com. And then
I
we're
don't
also
know.
going to have...
Did the check cash?
What's that? No, the check
Did the
didn't
check
cash.
cash?
It bounced, but we're still going to talk about it. That's okay.
I don't know if we can do that.
Yeah. Apparently, whenever we get something exclusive, it means we paid money. Not that NCSoft's like, hey, you want to run this? And I say, okay. That's basically all that happens, but I'm supposed to have a fighter jet and a whole bunch of other, and like 7 Lamborghinis, apparently, because that's how we get our content.
How do you think you paid for that tree on the wall?
Yeah, that's paid for that plastic tree on the wall. And lastly, we'll talk in our community spotlight. We'll talk about the notion that content locusts are a good thing. That one of our users on the website brought up. He believes that it's okay that players come in, play a game, consume its content, and move on. And we'll see why he might think that, if it's at all right, and what the larger problem might be. So we'll get started right away with PlanetSide 2. Let me get our cool little launch day trailer up. PlanetSide 2. I'm terrible at this game, as everybody probably knows after the last time I played it live on this channel. But it's a lot of fun. It launched, and how are things going, Rob? Did you get a chance to play it?
I haven't played since it went live. I played in the beta quite a few times. I'm not much of a FPS player.
No.
Terrible at aiming.
Yeah. That's me too.
How do you shoot women and children? It's easy. You just don't lead them as much. I'm terrible at FPSs.
Aren't you
Those
military
games.
though? Was that not your job? Weren't you killing people?
I was in the military for many years,
Okay,
about a decade.
So you're rusty, is what the deal is.
It's like, it's what you do it for real. It's not so much when you do it for fun. No, it's I know Mike's been streaming it a lot on our channel. He's been playing it. I know some people have had some that are complaining about the aiming in the game for the free players. I don't really.
Is there?
I guess.
What would
I guess
be
I
the
don't want to get
problem
too
with-
much into it. Sorry.
What's the problem with the aiming?
They were just mentioning that if you're a free player, that it's really difficult to aim. But I haven't really dug into that myself, so I don't really want to back. I can't really back that argument one way or the other.
I wonder, are they talking about how you gain, your not? I don't know. I don't think they're called skill points, but you gain.
I think it
them
has to do
slower.
with certifications.
Yeah, the
that you
certs. You
gain.
get the certs a lot slower, right?
Yeah, it's the way you do the certifications in the game. So,
Yeah.
but
Well,
hey, they
it
got
is
to pay
free.
the bills too, you know.
Yeah.
So,
It is free, so if you want to get better, at least you know how to do it. Um,
exactly.
personally,
My only concern with that though is everybody's really quick to jump on the pay to win bandwagon on any free to play
yeah, especially a
these days,
competitive
and
shooter.
yeah, and how negative that could impact their business. So,
Yeah.
especially when they've done a good job making a visually very impressive game so far.
I have the distinct feeling that PlanetSide 2 is going to be one of those games that, just like PlanetSide 1, it'll have a wider audience, but I have a feeling that if you're into it, you're going to be really into it, and if you're not that into it, you probably won't play it that much. You know what I mean? Like, it's either going to have super hardcore players or nobody. I don't expect, like, average day Joe to play, like, 1 hour, a few hours here a week is really going to get all that into it, to be honest. But I could
Yeah,
be
it's gonna be
wrong.
really difficult,
Yeah. It's
without a
just
doubt.
But I do have a. Did you see combat in the military?
Yeah.
Yeah. What I notice a lot of like forum users on MMORPG.com say that it gives you the feel of war, and I think that's crazy. But you can tell me if they're wrong or not. Like apparently, this feels like war, whatever that means, according to some people.
No.
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 I can't imagine giant flying alien spaceships feels like war either.
It doesn't. No.
Good to know.
There's a. That's a whole other topic we can talk about later. But yeah, it's unnerving sights and sounds, and in this game, it's a video game. So
Yeah.
no, unequivocally no.
I want someone to say that to like a Vietnam vet, like a grizzled Vietnam vet, and see what happens. Just for crying out loud. It's
Yeah,
PlanetSide 2.
chokeslam.
Let's leave. Yeah, chokeslam. It's PlanetSide 2, folks. But it is a lot of fun. It is out now. It is completely free to play. Although there is an optional, paying thing, and then you can talk about pay to win or not. But basically, if you pay, you get you don't get like special. You don't get better weapons for paying, but you can buy weapons after you get the certifications. And if you're subscribing, you get your certifications faster. So it's kind of, what would you say, nebulous maybe to say pay to win. I don't think it's really like an automatic win button. You still got to be skilled, but it can give you an advantage if you pay, I would say. Right?
I think it's like a lot of games that are have cash shops where there's things that can enhance your ability to be more powerful to a point, and I don't consider that paying to win. For me, pay to win is if you can't do it unless you pay.
Yeah. This
At
is like
some point.
you're paying to
And you
progress
can-
quicker.
Yeah, it's supposed to be mostly cosmetic as far as the stuff that you pay for, but you can progress, I guess, a little quicker through if you throw some money down. But hey, it's just the nature of the beast. If you have to pay $5 to be competitive, it's $5. Get
I'm
over
sure
it.
there's probably a lot of free players out there who are not paying a dime and are doing just fine. That would be my guess.
Without a doubt.
Anyway, we'll move on to Guild Wars 2 and the Lost Shores event. Don't really have any good video of the Lost Shores event, so I'm just playing this trailer right now. But I partook in the event most of the weekend until it kept crashing on me, and then I couldn't get my rewards, and so I'm still kind of salty about that. Like, I was with it for like 2 hours, and then when I finally got to log back in, the crab, the giant Karka, had been killed, and I couldn't get my rewards, and I still don't think I'll ever get the rewards. People were getting like precursors to legendary items, a giant 20-slot bag, and all this other stuff for like free, and I got jack squat. So I'm a little mad.
Yeah.
But
And as well you should be.
yeah, and I think that's what a lot of folks over that weekend realized, that maybe the Halloween event went really well, and it did. I do think the Halloween one went extremely well, but this Lost Shores event had bugged NPCs out the wazoo. People were disconnecting, couldn't complete the events, and it just it didn't go as well, despite having a ton of content being added in the first 2 months. It's still, when you do a live at one-time only event and players can't partake in it, that's a problem, especially if they're trying to partake in it.
Yeah, and you should get mad, bro, over stuff like that. one of the viewers just asked you, mad bro. Yeah, you should.
I am a little mad.
It's the problem with one-time event content like that. Is that it's a cool idea until in practice when something like this happens. Also, I really question the timing of starting the event. Who starts the event at noon on Friday? Yeah. Granted, it's not noon Friday for everybody.
Yeah.
But it's still Friday for most people.
And it's going to be, if it's one time only, you're talking about, you're excluding a lot of people.
Guess what? Hey, I'm at work.
So,
you know, maybe you pay some support staff overtime and you have them come in on a Saturday. I don't know. Just thinking.
And do it.
You're still going to obviously.
They did a second phase on Saturday and a third phase on Sunday, but it was all at noon, and it only lasted for an hour on Friday, I think an hour on Saturday, and then a few hours on Sunday. So, none of those players.
And I know people work on the weekend, so I'm not trying to exclude them either. But from a business standpoint, you're probably going to exclude more people by holding it on Friday than if you held it on the weekend.
Well, and that brings me. Oh, go ahead. Continue. I'm sorry.
But you were talking about missing out on rewards as well. You know, this isn't the first publisher to have a one-time event and have it fail. You know, we saw Tryon try this with the River of Souls opening back in, I guess, April of last year before, and it didn't go so well. I mean, you had about a couple thousand people standing around waiting for Alsbeth, who was the big bad of the River of Souls event, and it was stop motion doing these events. To the point where some people, you get up to it, you'd hit the mob once and it'd fall over dead, and the thing had like millions of hit points. There was just that many people participating in it. But they made good. People that tried to log on, I think just anybody who had the game at that point was emailed a care package through their in-game mail where they got certain quest items. They got a big giant bag. It was like a 20-slot bag. They were able to complete their quests that they had that involved the event. And they even did that for people that didn't log on during the event.
Yeah. I think
so there's ways to
that.
Yeah. So you can kind of make it right, but you never really make it right because you can't, get people involved in the event after it's already done. And that's what I think people really miss out on is the fact that, it's kind of, you wanted the shinies, but at the core of the issue is you wanted to take part of the event. You really wanted to do it, and
it's true.
It kind of sucks when you can't.
It's true, and I think they being ArenaNet, they could learn a little something from Tryon in that Tryon has now adopted the sort of multiple stages and things recur over the course of their events now. Like it happens at multiple points, and you have a clear indication of where things are happening in Rift. You have a clear indication of when they're going to be happening, and there's no way you can miss it when you log in and there's a world event going on in Rift. It's like one of the first things that usually pops up on your screen.
Yes, and it's part of the UI.
Yeah, it's built into the game, and I think if they're going to continue to do these one-time events, they should, 1, indicate it better, 2, not have it happen just once. Maybe it happens only on this day, stage 1 only happens on this day, but it happens several times throughout the day, like every 3 hours or something like that. So there's going to be people that miss it still, but you hit a wider berth if you're doing it several times throughout the day. Same thing with the Ancient Karka in Guild Wars 2. They put out a poll directly after the Lost Shores event. I think it went out to email subscribers and stuff like that recently. They said, what should we do better in our next live event? And one of the things is should the Ancient Karka be attackable again? And of course, people are going to respond no and yes based on whether or not they actually got to partake in it. But I don't think that's the real issue. I think the real issue is a one-time event needs to happen, as silly as it sounds, multiple times over the course of the event time window. You know what I mean?
Yeah, especially when it changes the game, like it did when it changes the world. I think they should find at least a way to instance it. That way people who get into the game possibly later on can experience what happened in the world to bring that continent to bear.
And what's perfect for that is something that they introduced with that patch, the Fractals of the Mists. which like
Yeah.
goes back in time and does all that stuff. So it'd be a perfect place to be like, hey, why don't we put that whole Lost Shores carcass laying thing in the Fractals and the Mist and tune it for 5 players?
Yeah. Or maybe just, a cutscene the first time you have to travel to what that island would be. It
That
kind of
works.
shows you the rising of it, gives you
Yeah.
maybe a little playback of the history on it. Because it's really cool with one-time events if you're there for it. They're really not cool if you weren't there for
Yeah,
it.
and think about a year from now, a new player to the game, say like they buy the expansion pack for Guild Wars 2 and that's the first time they play it. They're going to get to South Sun Cove and not know what the hell the point of it was because it'll be history by then.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving on from the problems with the event, we go to what Chris Whiteside posted about upcoming updates. They basically said, yeah, not everything went according to plan. But they're taking consideration and comments like our own for the next event. But they said that they are already working on new fractal dungeons, which are the new sort of mini dungeon zones that were put in with the Lost Shores.
And they get my seal of approval.
They are they're revamping and retuning all of the original dungeons to make them more playable and more entertaining, which sounds awesome to me. We'll see exactly what that entails. They're adding in more creature variation across the game so that people aren't only fighting zombies the entire time. They're adding in even more South Sun Cove content because now that the island's there, they want to deck it out with stuff for level 80 players. New guild features and new guild progression features, new player progression features, and a whole bunch of more tweaks to the instance PvP, and also they have a bunch of stuff lined up for World versus World to change it and alter it and improve it. Now, none of this stuff has a timeline, and none of it has any real detail. It was basically just a way to say, hey, here's everything we're working on. Personally, I expect a lot of players to just want more information from that. Like, it's a good faith thing that he said all that, but I'm expecting, like, pretty soon they better have an announcement for December and what the content update is there.
Yeah, it's a pretty decent outline, but without any supporting, facts or documentation. It's kind of, it's really easy for me to create a post and say, "Hey, we're doing this."
Yeah.
But if I can't substantiate it, it's like, well, are you?
We're working real hard right now, but we can't show you yet.
like host our guesting.
Yeah.
I ended up not on the same server as the majority of the people with MMORPG.com, and because of that, I can't play the game with you guys.
That's supposed to be a feature that was supposed to come like right after launch, right?
Yeah. I can't even roll an alt on your server.
No.
Yeah, because that's
because you're trapped on your server.
Yeah, I know. So I get the whole fact that they didn't want to necessarily let people make different characters on different servers on the same account because of the possible spy mechanics with World versus World and whatever else, or maybe just because they wanted to find a way to gig you for some cash.
Yeah.
Hey, if you want to get your hands in my pockets that way, just buy me a beer first. But they really need to do something about guesting because it's frustrating, because there's people across the different servers that you want to get to play with, and you can't. And this is a feature they told us that they'd have, months ago.
And I understand, like, it never should affect World versus World, but that's not what we want. We want, like, I want to be able to play with Grak in a dungeon instead of be like, hey, man, what are you doing? Nothing. Okay. That's it, in chat. Yeah. We can talk, and that's it.
Yeah, we can talk.
Yeah.
But it's much cooler if we were sitting there zerging those bosses because we don't have our Trinity mechanics in the dungeons that they're revamping.
We're gonna set Grak off on the Trinity again.
No, if they're gonna revamp the dungeons, here's just a suggestion: add a way to put a calling to your character, maybe something to where you become a little bit more proficient at that, and it just doesn't become where we're just like waves against the sand, where we're eventually gonna just wear down to nothing.
I don't think you'll see them add that. I think if anything, what I expect to happen is that they're going to dumb down the dungeons because they won't add in some sort of Holy Trinity. They just won't. That'll go against.
Yeah.
But I expect that enough players have complained about how difficult it is or how you're just resurrecting and running back, that they're probably going to make them easier somehow. I don't know how, but that's what I expect will happen.
See, I think they're kind of not too difficult as it is. But no, I understand what you're saying. Hey, make them the story modes, make it
Yeah.
more about the exploration
Less,
and
I
not
should
so
say
much about
less
the
zerging, yeah.
combat.
Because you can die
You
and
know,
just keep going back, but I mean, like, you won't die anymore. That's what I
yeah,
expect is going to happen. It'll be
ha-
a lot harder to die.
have the bosses be like checkpoints and just help progress the story,
Yeah.
and not so much be an actual encounter where you have to fight. So
I'll be interested to see, or if they're even going to maybe take some of the stuff they learned from fractals and break them up like that. I don't even
yeah,
know, but well, I guess we'll find out. And what I'm really hopeful for is different player progression, because I think Guild Wars 2's weakest point is the fact that level 80 there's not much to do unless you if after you've cleared the map, after
hmm
you've played all the dungeons and done that stuff. There's no way to progress your character beyond level 80, and
yeah.
that's
Here,
that's what every game needs at the level cap.
I got a question for you.
Hmm.
Are you level 80 yet?
I have been level 80 for no, nope, not at all. I'm level 72. I'm
Hey,
taking
you're
my
getting
sweet old
there.
time. That is well over 150 hours played at level 72, by the way.
You know how you can get to level 80 real quick?
Craft.
Just do some crafting.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I'm
Um,
I'm crafting above my level in Huntsman, or was it Huntsman? Yeah, and at my level for cooking right now. Cooking is kind of a money sink. I'd rather just buy stuff from people.
yeah. And just, I don't want people to get me wrong. I'm not a Guild Wars 2 hater. I quite enjoy the game. I just, there's a couple things to it that really aggravate me. And I let them be known.
Well, I foresee my 80 wall, which happens to me in any game that's based on levels too. Is I get to the end game and I'm not the kind of person that ever has cared about rating or gear progression, and I don't want to chase a carrot like that. I just if you're gonna have a max level, let me find some other way to continue to build out my character, and that's why I like Rift so much. Is that you can do the same thing once you get to level 50, and you in EverQuest 2, same thing. And all those that sort of alternate advancement is perfect for a game that's based on a theme park. Otherwise, the only games that have ever really done it right would be Ultima Online, which no one talks about, or Eve, for that matter. I guess does the same thing with their sort of progression. Which I guess we can stop talking about Guild Wars 2 and then move on to the next game, because you said something that kind of falls right in line with that different character progression. Moving on to Age of Wushu, which launched its closed beta back on the 15th, so we're a little bit late on this one, but I wanted to make sure we mentioned it. It is a martial arts fantasy MMORPG. Think Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, as you can tell by the video, and that's kind of what you've got. I don't know much about this game other than some things like I've heard, like when you log out, your character can become an NPC, and you can give it a day job, like, I don't know, cooking food, and it'll sell food and you make you money and gain things while you're logged out. Or other players, rival players, could kidnap your character while you're logged out, and then you could end up like in a slave trading pen when you log back in, which sounds like the most epic troll I've ever heard. But other other than that, I really I don't know too much about it. But Rob played it for a little bit last night, so maybe you can tell us more.
You can be a beggar for your job.
That's your
So
job.
you can log out and your character will lay there on the streets and be like begging. It's pretty hilarious. It's like, really? And you do like offline skill progression as far as setting a trait to learn while you're off, reminiscent of Eve Online.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I hadn't played Age of Wushu. So this morning I got up a little bit early before the show and I logged in for about an hour, and I'm still going through the tutorial. So I don't know a ton about it yet to really give you any great insight. It does have one interesting feature, the auto pathing feature, and I don't know that it's
Oh, I hate
necessarily the first game to do. What'd you say?
that. I hate that. You're talking about like you can click on a quest objective and it'll walk you there automatically.
Yes.
Oh, I hate that. That is such an Asian thing, and I'm not trying to make it. I'm not trying to like feed you into stereotypes, but like, what's another one that does that? Is Forsaken World does that, and that was like the first time I experienced it, where you don't even have to pay attention, like to what you're doing. Oh, that's terrible. It's optional, right?
Yes.
But it's dumb.
Yeah. Well, it's convenient
I guess you can play it with
when
one
you're
hand while you're doing something else.
when you're multitasking. When you're reading reviews on other games and playing a game, it's helpful. But no, you can at about halfway through you get to pick whether or not you want to become one of 8 different schools of martial arts. 3 are good. 4 are good, 2 are neutral, and then 2 are evil.
What are the evil schools of martial arts?
Well, it's not. I guess that they're more sinister, but no, I think it did actually say that they were evil. There's the like the Emperor's Guardsmen, which are cruel and they seek power, and then there was another one which was considered the evil twin of the Shaolin. So I'm a big fan of the Wu-Tang Clan. No, I'm just kidding, really not. So I went Shaolin. And that's what I decided to be, a Shaolin monk. So I think my character actually right now, if you go to the Shaolin Temple, you'll find him sweeping streets while I'm logged out. That's his life calling, is to be a street sweeper when he is not.
Wouldn't the entire server, wouldn't the entire area fill up with people doing random crap like that, or does it?
Well,
depend on who you're friends with, or how do you determine who gets seen in the streets sweeping?
There is an option to turn off other people's characters. It's like F9, and you'll hide their characters, so you wouldn't really see them. But keep in mind games like Final Fantasy 11, where nowadays it's not there's not a bajillion people or anything. But back in its heyday, you'd have all these people sitting around with their little bazaars and their little bags over their head.
Yeah.
I mean, so you had them littering the place.
Ragnarok. Ragnarok did the same thing. Ragnarok was just like, if you go to a city, all you saw was little 2D sprites littered around everywhere with bubbles above their head about what they're selling.
Yeah.
I guess
Ion had that too.
What had that?
Ion. Eventually
Ion had that? Oh, yeah, well, Ion definitely did have that. They don't do it anymore in the free-to-play version, do they?
I guess, actually thinking about it, technically you were still logged on, and this you're not even logged on.
No. This you're gone.
Yeah.
And, I honestly think the game does look interesting. I'm not a huge martial arts fan, but I like the certain ideas that it has behind its character progression, and it's when you're logged out, you can do that. I think that's kind of cool. But is the game, you haven't played it enough maybe, but is the game just another go kill monster fest, go kill things fest, like all sort of free-to-play games are? Is it a grind fest?
I have no idea yet at this point.
Next week you'll have to tell us.
Yeah, so far it doesn't appear that way. It seems like there's a lot of other things to do about internal, self-discovery of your character, I guess we'd say. So there are obvious aspects in the game so far from very early on that encourage you to pay to play the game.
Okay.
One of those is you don't earn experience, or let me rephrase that. You do earn experience, but you can only use 70% of the experience you earn towards actually developing your skills. So when you earn experience, it kind of gets put in a pool. And then from that pool, so it converts from experience to potential, and then you can use your potential to learn skills or upgrade skills.
Mm-hmm.
But what's going to happen if you're not a premium player, if you're just a free player, only 70% of your experience will go into your potential, and then the other 30% is going to go into a bank where you can buy that if you want to become a VIP member or subscribe.
Is it? So it is going to be free to play, right?
Correct.
But optional subscription. And the only way to, not the only way, but one of the easiest ways to get in closed beta right now is to just buy their sort of founders pack, right?
Yes, I was fortunate enough that I knew somebody had a key and I got it from them.
Oh, nice.
I was able to get in. But yeah, it's a closed beta. But if you have Facebook and stuff like that, you can log in through that. I think it's Facebook, Yahoo, and I want to say if you have a Gmail account, you can automatically log in.
It's from Snail Games. It's not anybody that I've honestly heard of. I didn't hear of Snail Games until this game was at E3 this year with Jet Li endorsing it. But it looks like NYC Playboy says it's only $9.99. to get into the beta now, and that's like the Founders Pack. So I don't know. I think I might get to try it after this. Although I did just get Borderlands 2 and XCOM for really cheap this weekend.
Oh man,
I'm
I
slow.
want to play me some Borderlands.
You want to?
Yeah, I need to. I haven't played it yet.
Neither have I. I mean, I played it at some of the shows, but I was waiting for a Steam sale because I don't get enough time to play offline. It's like $30 on Amazon right now.
I'll think about it.
Yeah.
What I was going to say is there are special moves you can do, and it's kind of like a cutscene when you do it, and
Really?
that's pretty cool. Yeah, so it's got some of those
I saw
cool
the lady with the Chun-Li kick, like the rapid
gimmicky
kick.
features
Yeah.
to it. Yeah, so like you there's a special mechanic that you'll build. It's called like Rage, and once you get to a certain rage level, you can do some of your special moves, and it's not like you got to hit up, up, down, down, left, right to do them or anything like that. You just hit your button, and your guy starts doing his backflips, and he's like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon,
See, that sounds
dancing
kind
on
of cool.
people's heads.
That sounds kind of cool. I might actually have to go. You know, it is my job. I might have to go pay for this and get into it, considering it is closed beta and they're not going to let press in just yet. But
Yeah, and get 5 o'clock in the morning and
play it.
play it so you can talk about it.
Well, I'm glad you did that, so I didn't have to.
Yeah.
Moving on, we'll talk about Wildstar, which just announced the Orin homeworld and Orin backstory lore here. I'm going to play this video. This video that's playing for Wildstar is actually from the PAX Prime 2011 alpha gameplay that they showed us. Somebody had actually was allowed to record it and post it. It's like the demo that they gave everybody. So this is a good indication. The combat is not the same anymore. The combat has changed to a lot more sort of like, well, like free form sort of, I guess a cross between Terra and Secret World is kind of how it looks now. But anyway, what we got at MMORPG.com this week, about 3 hours ahead of the official site, is they let us exclusively post the Orin homeworld lore. And the Orin are, let's see if we can see one in the video, considering right now, the Orin is that lady with the cat tail and the bunny ears that's running around. I didn't design them, folks. And anyway, let me find it for us. So what I find interesting about the Orin lore reveal is that they lived on a planet called Arborea. Hey, cat. And Arborea sounds a lot like Terra, doesn't it? It reminds me a little bit of Terra. I think one's spelled with an I and one's spelled with an A. But the Orin are a race of peaceful people that were attacked by the Dominion faction, who we know nothing about yet. To be honest, there are going to be two factions in the game, just like any other sort of theme park lately. And one faction it comprises the humans, the Granok, and the Orin, and then the other faction is the Dominion, who we know nothing about just yet. But anyway, they're peaceful, happy-go-lucky folks with tails and bunny ears, and they are now displaced from their homeworld and want to try to get back, so that's their goal. But don't really want to talk about just the Orin. I want to talk about Rob's impressions of Wildstar so far. I've seen it at shows, I've played it at shows. You haven't really, other than what you've seen from the press, you don't know much about it, right?
Correct.
So what do you think of it so far, just based on what you've seen?
Personally, I kind of dig some of the games that have stylized graphics, which this one, this is obviously the way that they've decided to go with Wildstar. They're, realism's not the name of the game here. They're not shooting for that. As far as the gameplay, I've read some stuff. Until I actually can get hands on it,
Cat.
I really. My son decided to open my office door, and now I've got a.
That's okay.
I've got an interloper. So, sorry.
That's funny.
You'll have to,
It can just keep happening. We could just do a show that's all cat. And the cat has been locked out, folks.
that was our technical difficulties for this week.
That's okay. We can handle felines getting in the way.
Yeah.
So, Anyway, from what WildStar's trying to do is, and their claim is that they want to sort of make a sandbox out of a theme park
Yeah.
by letting players alter the world through their career paths. Because for those of you that don't know, you pick your class, and that's like your regular sort of combat-based class, just like any other MMO. But you also pick a path that determines how you interact with the world. There will be a path that's all based on exploring. There will be a path that's based around combat and engaging in these sort of giant event-like things. There'll be a path for archaeologists, I think it is, which are folks that will discover the lore throughout the game world. It kind of mixes exploration and lore. And then there's another path called the settler, and the settler does things like rebuilds towns and maybe makes an outpost and builds defenses and helps get traders online and other things like that throughout the world. I think that's kind of awesome in theory, but we haven't really seen it in practice yet. And if it actually happens, it could make a theme park / sandbox an actual thing, because I don't think anybody's really been able to do that yet, to be honest.
I just think it's going to be really hard to sustain a AAA sandbox if that's what they're going for. Because I'm really interested in how they're going to hybridize it, because you're going to have, it's either going to be a theme park or it's going to be a sandbox.
And
I know that there are so many people out there that say, I want a sandbox, and then it's very, I'm concerned that if you give somebody that, they're going to look at it and be like, what do I do now? Mm-hmm. You've got so many people that are used to playing MMOs where the developers basically hold your hand and guide you through all the content, that if they finally say, here you go, here's the tools, here's the world, have fun, people are going to be like, where's the content? It's like, well, that's what you're there for. Well, why am I paying for what I pay you for? Where's my content?
They have an ambitious goal, and what they've told us is that they have about an entire year's worth, and that's one every month, of story-based events that change the world. Like you'll go back, say you'll be level 50 or whatever the level cap is, and then a zone like the story in the month of June or whatever will send you back to a lower level zone where there's like this big sort of dynamic event that maybe you've seen in like Guild Wars 2, and that'll be going on through that entire month. But so like the story progression, the sort of theme park progression, is all based on like an open world sort of story where everybody can progress together, I guess, regardless of level. And then they say the sandbox type features are all based around their paths and the crafting and the career paths and stuff like that, and how the players change the world based on their actions. Now, the question is are they really going to be changing the world, or is it just going to be like Guild Wars 2, where you have a lot of fun doing the events, and it is really cool when it happens, and like the centaurs take over the village, and you have to push the village back, but then it just happens again and again and again? Or is it really going to be the kind of thing where they change the world permanently? And if that's the case, what about the players that weren't there, like we talked about earlier? It seems like there's a lot of potential for angry players, no matter which way they slice it.
Yeah, you guys kind of have to deal with that as it comes. But two things. I love me some crafting. Mm-hmm. So, do that, and I'll be a happy guy. The second one is we've seen 2 high-profile games within the last 12 months come out and say, we're going to have monthly updates. Mm-hmm. Neither one of them have made good on their promise. And not to beat a dead horse, but one goes by the name SWOTOR, and the other's The Secret World. Yeah. And The Secret World finally had 1.4 come out last week, and SWOTOR has still just had 1.5. Yeah. And I guess that's been more than a year. Is it almost 2 years, or just a year? Yeah. So
I mean, the one that has is Guild Wars 2, but it's only been 2 months. We'll see if they can keep it going for longer than that.
Yeah, and I don't even know that I'd constitute no offense to them, but there's a lot of games that have holiday events. I wouldn't call them updates.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
I guess you're right. Maybe the Halloween content was less permanent. Lost Shores definitely was. I would consider that a content update. All new dungeons, all that other stuff. The new PvP map. But the Halloween one, you're right, it wasn't really permanent. It was just something to enjoy for that weekend.
Yeah, like Blizzard's been had their Halloween event, and
To be
then,
fair, Guild Wars 2 was a lot more involved.
yeah, but you also have like Warhammer.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, what I'm getting at is there's a lot of games that have events for the holidays. I don't consider them necessarily content updates.
Yeah.
I think the timing for them was just very fortuitous.
And if it's not permanent content, it doesn't really count as something. Like, it's not there. It was gone after the weekend. There were 2 cool PvP maps in that that Halloween update that I wish were still there, but they're not.
Maybe you'll see them in 12 months.
Maybe, probably. I bet I will. Anyway, back to Wildstar. They one of the cool things, speaking of crafting, that they are going to do, it's their crafting's more involved, obviously, than mine the node and make stuff. In terms of a miner, this is one thing they've actually showed us in practice at a video. You can mine a node, and if you're lucky, maybe it'll turn into it'll actually be the back of a monster that you're mining, and it comes out of the ground, and you attack it and kill it, and you get more ore. Okay, so that's kind of cool. So it makes it a little more interactive. And then,
or it's just a really bad day.
Or it's just a really bad day. Well, it gets worse because you could mine that same node, and maybe you'll get really unlucky, and it's the back of what they call like I can't remember, but it's like a crystal worm. It's like a giant worm that's like full of ore, and you're like, crap, I really just wanted some ore. But so it's like a big like mini boss, and you kill that, and if you manage to kill that and bring it down, it falls down on the ground dead, and its mouth is wide open, and you can then enter its mouth, and it's like a private instance where there's nothing but crafting rewards inside for you. Like nothing but cool ore and things like that. So like you'll be out mining and you'll actually be sad maybe that all you got was a regular piece of ore because you were hoping for that giant ore worm. But I think that's a sweet idea. That's a way to make crafting a little more interactive in the world. And it gives me hope that the rest of the crafting professions will also be a little more unique, you know?
I'm digging that. Gonna go kill me some crystal worms.
Crystal worms. And then they give you a private instance where you can get more crystals. But anyway, so that was Wildstar. It's kind of one of those games that there's still a lot to learn about, and I don't know how much we're going to learn until 2013. I don't even think they have a release date set yet. They don't have a subscription model set yet, and they said it's still up in the air. We don't even know what the other faction is called. I mean, or we don't know what the other faction entails. We know they're called the Dominion. So we got a while, I think. But
to the Borg.
the Borg. So, moving on, we have, we're coming to the community spotlight portion. This is our last topic of the day, guys, and we haven't had a technical issue, so that's great, besides the cap. We come to JPNZ is a user on our forums, and as you can probably tell by this video, he believes that what's wrong, or he says, what is wrong with the idea of content locusts in MMOs. And what he's referring to are the players who will come into a new game, eat up all that content in like a month or two, complain that there's nothing left, and then move on and wait for the next thing that they can feed off of and leave its dry husk behind. Look, it's BBC, folks. So his argument is that with all the MMOs that are out in the world right now, that are out in the market, that it's okay for players to eat up their content and then move along and move on to the next thing, or come back to the game after some more content has been added. And what we have are players who would argue that, and I think that their point is that they don't want a world that you're just supposed to stay in for a couple months, eat all the content, and be bored. They want a game that maybe isn't based on content at all, that's rather based on the idea that players themselves feed the world and create the content, and it's someplace that you do stay for years. Even if you're not playing it every day, it's someplace that there's always something new to do in, because the players are the content, not the content is something that we just eat and move along. What do you think, Grak?
I think that I'm mesmerized by these
locusts.
Just swarming. There was grass there.
Not anymore.
It's really tough with the gamer ADD we've got nowadays, as far as hopping around from world to world. I mean, wow, that one's kind of gross. That That was an ugly locust. That had a face only its mother could love. That's it's a really good point and a very difficult thing to deal with. Granted, I'm not a game designer, so I don't have to worry about it too much.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know that it's a problem we as the players created or a problem the developers created. Back in the day, all of like 10 years ago, since this is still a pretty evolving genre, the leveling was a large part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Took
you didn't just play a game and all of a sudden you were at end game a month later. Which even nowadays, with these expansions like with Rift, people 3 days later were already at 60. Say it with WoW, people were 90 just a couple days. The power players were max level just a few days later.
Yeah.
And it's so much become about the destination and not the journey that I think a lot of people skip content in games and then say, "Where's my content?"
Yeah.
It's like, well, you just went through,
you missed it
like
all.
15 zones of stuff to do and didn't do any of it, and now you're sitting around at 60, like, well, what am I gonna do now?
Yeah.
Or 90, like, what's left? So maybe that's kind of missing the point, but I think in our blind rush to get to that number on our character, that we don't do a lot. Like I can tell you personally, for my Guild Wars 2 guy, I hit 80, and I really haven't played. I've only got about 50% of the map explored.
Yeah.
There's so much stuff left to do for me in the game that I'm really not that encouraged to log on and do it because I'm at 80. And the terrible thing is, it's the last 10 levels I got making jewelry for my character, to make him stronger, make him more of a glass cannon guardian.
See, and I think it depends on the kind of player you are too, because if you are an achiever and you've got that max level, there's not much left to do for you unless you like to explore also in Guild Wars 2 or in any game really. Like, okay, so my goal was to hit 60. That was my goal. I've got it. Now what? And I think that's the kind of problem a lot of players have, is because a game that's focused on just the content that was made by the developers, and it's sort of something that you consume and you don't replay it. It does have that sort of finite beginning and end unless the developer can make content at a constant basis. And I think we've seen for many years now that it's impossible for a developer to give enough content to players that they are content for longer than a couple weeks. There are lots of players that will play something for months, like myself, and still not be the max level. But there are so many more out there who will play it and challenge and chomp through it like so quickly that there's no way that any developer can make content for those people. And it becomes to the point where they're not, it's mostly the player's fault, I would say, not even the designer's fault. I think it's the player's fault that they're going through this content so quickly and that they're bored when it's something that they maybe could take their time doing. Now, I'm not saying the designers are flawless, because this content is designed to be eaten and consumed, but at the same time, maybe players shouldn't be trying to get through it as fast as possible just to get to the end game.
There's a comment, you're telling us to go to life. I don't think anybody's telling anybody to go to life.
No.
I think that what we're trying to point out is that there's
more to do.
A lot of things between point A and C, like point B, that a lot of people run by in the rush to get to the end, and they miss all the stuff that's in between. I personally like achievements. Some people hate them. I think it's a very polarizing topic, but it's additional ways to give you incentive to go back and do old content, which some people might consider irrelevant, just to do things differently. Because I can promise you that there's people that do dungeons and instances that would not do them,
Mm-hmm.
sheerly for the fact that they go back and they want to try and get the achievements. And by doing so, it creates a larger pool for people that are going through them and just want to do them just because that's what they like to do. So you've got one person that's doing it because they just like the fact of going through doing the dungeons. They like the story. They like what they're doing. And then you got the other group of people that are coming back because they want to kill a certain boss a certain way,
Yeah.
To get their points to add to their achievement score, or just to unlock, possibly get a special title, what have you. And those are quick and easy ways for developers to give players goals to keep them interactive inside the world without really having to design a whole lot.
Yeah.
Say, hey, this guy's got a mechanic, interrupt it so many times and make sure no one steps in the fire, and we'll give you, hey, I'm not a derp. I stayed out of the fire title. And, invariably, a couple times you're probably going to fail because someone's going to be like, what? There's an achievement here?
Yeah.
Fire? What fire? Meanwhile, they're getting hit in the back by something else. So
Control Blue says that achievements aren't content, and I kind of have to argue that content's not content then. It's all stuff for players to do. If an achievement's not content, relevant. A dungeon's not content, a quest isn't content, a new skill isn't content. It's all content. The problem the developers have is that they can't make enough of it, ever. And what you would have seen, I guess, if you had been one of the 1,000 so people at the panel for PAX Prime this year, is every developer on that panel, from Tryon to even Runic Games and Red 5 Studios, and I think Carbine was there too, I can't remember. They all said that, you know what, we've all realized over the past few years that content is not the definitive way to go when you're designing an MMO. What you need to design alongside content is systems. You need systems that can help players feed the world itself. I think one of the games that has the best chance to stick around for a long time and be competitive, even as a free-to-play game, is going to end up being Neverwinter with their Foundry, which is something that Cryptic has already been doing in other games. But it fits perfectly into the Dungeons and Dragons setting, because what is Dungeons and Dragons about if it's not about designing dungeons and creating content for other players to consume? And it pulls some of the weight off the developer. They're still going to make their content updates, and they're still going to pass them out and probably sell them for $10 or something like that. But while players are playing the game, if they've consumed all of the content that was there for them at the beginning of the game, they'll also will be a never-ending supply of player-made content that is voted up and voted down by the players. So you can go into this little UI thing and you'll see that, holy crap, these 3 dungeons by these guys are supposed to be some of the best dungeons. Maybe I'm going to try those. And it's still content, but the systems that are there behind it are feeding the game with like a never-ending stream. I think that's awesome.
It is great. Systems are, without a doubt, the way to go. And just to validate the argument as far as achievements not being content, I completely understand the argument that achievements aren't content, but I would just like to say that it is completely relevant to you and what you consider to be content. If it's something for you to strive for and play the game, then in my opinion, it would be considered a content item. Mm-hmm. But if you want it to be like a physical place that you have to go stand on, then okay, then
it won't be.
Then it's just So I get it. I don't disagree. I do disagree with it, but I understand.
But that's okay. We can disagree, and it's okay. Nobody has to get angry.
But it's a very tough.
It's very tough. I don't think there's anything wrong with players being content locusts. I think there are so many games out there that it's okay to like hop between them. What I think the next game that's going to be big will do is provide systems for players to want to stay in the game longer than a month or two. I think that's the key. Are you reading the chat or watching the locusts?
No, the chat. They disagree with you kicking the cat out of the room.
He will get to come back in as soon as the show's over.
Yes.
Which it is, folks. We are at the end. Oh, look. Gentleman Geek just showed up. You are late, sir. You should wake up earlier. That is Casey Gentleman Geek Gilder, who streams over at RTS Guru for us, by the way. Thank you, guys, for watching the show. Thank you for joining us on our second week. And I don't think we had any technical difficulties this time. So next week, we're probably actually going to announce this far in advance, so maybe we can get more than 13 viewers at a time. Maybe.
I work next week.
Never mind. We won't be doing it. Well,
the week after.
It'll be the week after. Well, Grak might not be here. We might have to just get a substitute for him, which will pale in comparison. Oh, look. Gentleman Geek will wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning and sit in. We'll have him do it. But this way we can keep it going. Anyway, thank you for watching, everybody. I don't have any beta keys to give away this week, but I'm going to try to get some for next week. So hang tight, and we'll do that. Rob, thank you for joining me as always. You can go let the cat back in.
Oh, I will.
Bye, guys. Thanks a lot.
Bye.